not exactly hidden. "So are you willing to talk?" Vernon asks Bryn Char, and the fuming sorcerer turns to glare at him before looking away. "Fine then, I'll talk and you listen." That earns him another glare, but there's no fear in Vernon's heart. "Yes, we've stopped you from grabbing those 3 bitches and systematically going through all of the money shots of the Bone Chewer series, Bone Chewer Legacy series, and Bone Chewer Rebirth series." That earns a snort of amusement in spite of Bryn Char's foul mood. "Long story short, we have a choice. 3 or 4 Orga girls dead now, or the whole fucking nest of them in a few weeks at most." "That does sound like a good deal," Bryn Char notes as he takes a deep breath and seems to inhale and consume the air of malice around him. Then he exhales and he turns around, seemingly normal and unconcerned. "How may I help?" "Glad to have you on board. Now, if you want to really make this work, you can help me with something." "Toughening up the shinobi?" At the risk of sounding like a rambling fool, back in my day, sorcerers were tough and self-reliant. We are, but we don't have the rage that drives us to go out and start peeling faces off. Really? You want to go 4 months in 0 gravity with nothing to do as you feel the edges of your sanity fraying away and your fellows going equally as mad as the world dissolves into an endless progression of bright nothingness and pointlessness that makes you lose all track of time, sanity, and purpose? Vernon asks, and Bryn Char opens his mouth to say something, then reconsiders and starts to think. His eyebrows go up in surprise as he continues to think and then blinks. 4 months of absolute idleness? 4 months of nothingness while being crammed in with thousands of others as you can no longer reliably tell which way is up. Vernon remarks and Bryn Char considers. How much akin is it to being buried alive? Vaguely related, imagine being sealed into your own tomb, but you think you will survive. Think, not know? We weren't sure we would make it out of cruel space, or that anything worth having would be outside of it. There was a betting pool on what would be on the other side, and no one even imagined a galaxy full of eager and desperate women. One of the biggest and most popular pools was gigantic whores that want to eat us alive. Charming. Bryn Char notes and considers things. Yes, it would be like this. A large grouping of sorcerers without a call to vengeance. Of course you'd be more passive. This is about enlightenment and learning, not power and obsession. Exactly. I have some things I can teach them. A lot of them watched and read a lot of media about how the Apuk are so powerful and blah blah blah. The problem is that sorcerers are so much rarer than battle princesses that there's not much concrete information I could give them about people like us. Subjective perspective isn't considered enough. And since most is in hearsay, tales and popular media, it wasn't considered credible, I take it, Bryn Char asks, and Vernon nods. And your own word isn't enough? I've told them that every time I've fought someone princess level, which I consider that final round in the Broken Shell tournament to be, that the moment I bring out actual sorcery as more than a cute little flourish, they just crumble. And that is what happens every time. If I want to flat out win any spar with my wife, all I have to do is cut loose and call in the woods. Even without that, there are so many easy ways to throw her completely off balance that I learned from the woods that almost anything she does just falls apart. Balance and focus? Bryn Char asks, and Vernon openly considers it for a moment, then nods. That's how it's done. The 2 weak points of every Apuk is their balance and focus. Sorcery lets you shatter both with ease. Wood calling, earth shaping, and life molding lets you take complete control of a battlefield and opponent. Couple that with wood walking to escape whenever things go bad, or for sheer maneuverability on an altered battlefield, and all enemies crumble before you. Vernon explains and Bryn Char nods. Yes. Come on, let's have you explain just how easy it is to break someone in a fight, Vernon remarks as he nods to the main building in the village. Oh? They won't listen to you? I have fought in a state-sanctioned tournament and sparred with my wife. You have fought a full-on brutal one-man war against both Apuk warrior and battle princess and filled entire graveyards. There's a bit of a difference between us. True enough. Let's gather up your fellow soldiers and I'll give them a lecture on old-fashioned sorcery, back from the days when you only left the forest when you were ready to kill and die. None of this soft, visiting family bit. Bryn Char's words are harsh, but his presence is amused and there's a playful smile on his face. He probably means it as a joke, but he's just demonstrated a mastery of his own emotions and presence that would allow him to plot someone's murder while engaging in friendly conversation. Yes, well, old-timer, perhaps you could rain some wisdom down on us impertinent children, Vernon asks, and Bryn Char nods. Certainly, he says, and Vernon sends out a call that all sorcerers of the village hear. They simply appear inside the main building, already sitting on the floor or leaning against the main pillars of the building. Those that are still in training and can't woodwalk are there as well, having been carried along by those that could. Hello, gentlemen. Hopefully I haven't taken you from something important. Bryn Char opens up with, while smiling gently. Now it has been brought to my attention that many of you are somewhat concerned about facing Apuk in battle and doing so beside battle princesses, being expected to somehow do better than those that in many civilized places are considered suicide to fight against. Being expected to best one-woman armies is a rather tall order when you're not boiling in rage, driven by vengeance, or apathetic to your own survival. So this is Princess Pounding 101, Brandon asks, and there's some chuckling. Perhaps Crown Busting 101, so it's not misconstrued and doesn't excite the ladies that are currently listening in on this little seminar. Vernon says out loud, and the chuckling is a bit louder this time. Everyone's aware that the princesses are trying to listen in already. Even the least sorceress among them can still vaguely sense them nearby. The village is in a dark forest. The wood is watching them. Yes, about that. You've insisted, and there's even some old media to back up the claims that a single sorcerer can match multiple battle princesses. But I've read the reports and even seen demonstrations. The average battle princess is a supersonic tank buster capable of ripping starships in half with their bare hands if they don't just melt it into slag with their warfire, which they can also shape into weapons and wear as armor. I know that the wood can counter and drink the warfire, but that doesn't help much with the supersonic anti-armor threat going for your head, Koga says. But you two are confident. With Vernon, it's possibly misplaced, but you, Bryn Char, would know for certain. So tell us for certain, how easily is a princess countered? Individual princesses are not a threat to a fully realized sorcerer. It's only when they get into groups of 5 or more that you even need to pay any real attention to the fight. Bryn Char states outright with a smirk. The group that pinned me down, my wives, they were 20 strong when they hit me. Suffered 8 casualties before I was knocked out too. Ultimately, they did me a favor. My rampage was indiscriminate at that point and needed to be stopped. But it still took 20 princesses and 8 of them dying to knock me out. Not kill me, not injure me, not wound me, to render me unconscious. That's the power disparity. There are roughly 3 dozen princesses out there. If we turn hostile, then they're meat. Okay. So that means that the sorcerer's toolkit is more or less designed to make a joke out of princesses, isn't it? Brandon asks, with his communicator out. You are recording this. Dale isn't here. He's protecting the URLA family. He'll want to see this. Dale has just arrived. Come on, kiddo. Your mom and sisters will be safe with the princesses, Dale says, walking in with Jeth Erla. Do I need to repeat myself? Bryn Char asks, and Dale shakes his head. I was listening through the woods. Although having the recording for Jeth will be useful, Brandon says, and Bryn Char nods. Actually, now that he thinks about it, having the whole thing recorded would be wise. It would save him time later. Very well. Continue recording, please, Brinchar says, and Brandon gives a slight nod. Now, the 4 basic sorcerer arts are seemingly designed to build and grow things, to promote the forest. Earth Command lets you till the soil. Wood Calling lets you bring it forth. Life Altering lets it grow faster and easier. And Wood Walking lets you go home. Seemingly peaceful, seemingly harmless, utterly devastating with even a slightly vicious edge applied to it. Now, all Apuk have 4 great strengths. One is, of course, strength. If they get their hands on you, the fight is over and you have lost. Secondly is speed. You said it yourself, Mr. Koga, they're supersonic. They can chase you down faster than the sound of them coming can get there. Third, they're tough. To move at those kinds of speeds, to tear things apart at the level they do, to play with warfire as they do, if they weren't obscenely tough, their own techniques would kill them. Finally is the warfire. That's the big one. That's the one that separates an Apuk battle princess from a stupidly well-trained Canador or Snikt. The fire defines the Apuk and green and white war flames. They define the battle royalty, from the noble lines to the freshly crowned princesses to the empress herself. The warfire is what makes them royal. The green warfire reliably counters entire battleships, and the white has been known to boil away entire lakes in seconds. Only stars burn hotter, and it's not by very much. Brinchar's lecture on the power of the princesses is sobering and terrifying. All of it is as fragile as spun glass, Brinchar says with a vicious smile. All of it. Our tools, our techniques that easily turn to gardening and farming reduce the monster that is a battle princess into a frightened child in seconds. If you're not asleep or ignoring them utterly, then they're all but helpless before you. So let's take this apart piece by piece. First, the strength, Vernon says, and Brinchar nods. If they cannot touch you or throw anything at you, then all their strength can do is frustrate them. Use the wood to bind them and hold them. Pin their arms back and stay out of their reach. Wood walking makes you untouchable. Wood calling means you can touch them wherever they are, Brinchar explains. Which brings us to their incredible speed. It's hard to be fast without footing or traction. Break the environment around you and them. If the stone and earth and wood refuses to give them any ability to race or maneuver, then they're helpless and still, just waiting to be wrapped in roots and dragged to their doom, Vernon says with a touch of viciousness, and Brinchar nods approvingly. There's also the fact that with wood walking and their tendencies to charge forwards, that a princess is very, very easy to bait into a trap, and it's even easier for you to avoid harm even with yourself as the bait. Brinchar notes as the memory of one of his confirmed Orega kills flashes through his mind. He'd perfected his signature on her. Unfortunately, her corpse being found had scared the rest of the organization deep underground. He only caught a dozen more after that. It had also given him his nickname of the Bone Chewer, which was odd as he hadn't chewed anything. Apparently the sensationalists and storytellers of the time had thought Bone Chewer had flowed better than Bone Crusher or Bone Cruncher. But they did get one thing right. He was out to break their bones before they died. Like they broke his brother's bones after gagging him. No one's last memory of a loved one should be the sound of their limbs snapping like dried twigs. Brinchar does not flinch when the cracking sound echoes in his mind again. It's a near thing, but even though the sound is still as loud and as crisp as when he first heard it as a child, he does not flinch. Now then, this brings us to the vaunted durability of a battle princess, their immunity to standard weapons, capacity to endure the sheer strength and power of their fellows when sparring with one another. All of that? It's useless against us. Get roots and vines around them and reinforce them with life alteration. Then, when they're focusing on the vines and roots, alter their life. Weaken them, render them vulnerable and their easy prey. Brinchar explains before grinning viciously. Which finally brings us to the last illusion that they're any threat to you, the warfire. It's an outright weakness. Vernon notes glibly and Brinchar nods. It's a species-wide weakness. All Apuk share it. Our fire, we rely on it. Be it a normal flame or a war flame, it's something we rely on. It's the warmth in our chests, the reassurance of our strength and life, and the moment something happens to it, some part of us panics. Brinchar explains. But the wood eats all fire, Jeth Erla says from the group, and Brinchar points at him. That's right. Even the smallest amount of the wood will completely shut down all warfire. Brinchar says viciously. It can't help them. It can only help you. Even better, they use it by reflex. All Apuk spit fire when emotional or when scared, which just makes it easier and easier. So that means that their incredible strength is useless. Their speed just rushes them to their doom if they can even stand upright. Their toughness just means you get to play with them longer, and their fire only helps us. Can anyone else think of any reason whatsoever to be afraid or even mildly intimidated by a princess? Vernon asks out loud, and there's a pause as it all sinks in. It's that easy? Jeth Erla asks out loud, and Brinchar nods. It is. The princesses have to get very tricky, very cunning, and fight very dirty to have any chance at all against any kind of sorcerer, Brinchar says. But you won't have to worry about that for now. You're still learning. Just keep listening and growing. You'll get there soon enough. Right. So now that our little seminar on how to completely crush the big bad ladies listening in to us is over, let's get them in here so we can discuss our plan of attack. The Orega girls have been a blight upon this world and have made the serious fucking mistake of attacking one of our own. This means they all go down, and if they don't spend a long time in a cell, they spend the rest of all time in a grave. Any questions? Vernon asks out loud, and beside him, Brinchar grins viciously at the thought. I do have one, Brinchar asks, and Vernon turns to him with a raised eyebrow. If we find a huge number of them, like a hidden base or the like, one with cameras, I want to not only be allowed to have it all to myself, but I want to record what happens. I want to show all those sniveling cowards that thought they understood me when they made those movies to see what my wrath really looks like. Just make sure your targets are Orega girls and you don't hurt their victims more, and I'll personally set up extra cameras for the money shots, Vernon assures him, and Brinchar's smile eclipses psychotic.